and welcome to the FYN Virtual Learning Series for July 28th. We will be having a session today on your elevator pitch with Anna Stefanovici and Taryn Wasso. And I see both Anna and Taryn on screen, which is great. So I would like to mention before we get started that throughout the presentation, you can add any thoughts you have in chat and provide any questions that way. We'll also likely make use of the Q&A function, and I think throughout the presentation, Taryn and Anna will be prompting you to sort of get involved and share your thoughts on various topics. So without further ado, and I guess, sorry, I'll get my official languages talk beforehand. Alors, pendant la présentation, vous pouvez participer dans la langue de votre choix, alors soit en anglais ou en français, utilisant la fonction chat, et puis on va avoir les réponses dans la langue de votre choix. So please feel free to provide questions in the language of your choice, and we will answer those questions in the language of choice. Taryn and Anna, do you want to give maybe a brief introduction of yourselves, and then we'll get started with your presentation?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm Taryn Watson. I'm delighted to be here today with the Federal Youth Network. Always happy to support young professional networks. The past chair of Imagine, the Young Professional Network at Employment and Social Development Canada. Currently, I work as a senior manager at Shared Services Canada. And in my spare time, I'm also the chair of IPAC and CR. Thanks, I'll see.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me just fine? Awesome. My name is Anna Stefanovic. In my daytime job, I work in communications for the Natural Resources Department, specifically a sector called Lands and Minerals. And I'm also a volunteer with IPAC. I actually work with Taryn, and I do a lot of graphic design work. And in my spare time, I absolutely love biking and exploring Ottawa because I'm new in Ottawa, so I'm getting to meet a lot of people. Thank you.
Awesome. So in terms of the structure of this session, so you have a presentation that you'll go through first, and then we'll go through a bit of a Q&A and answer participant questions. So if you'd like to start with the presentation, then we can get going.
All right. So maybe just to begin, want to recognize that I'm here in Ottawa, and so for folks in Ottawa and the National Capital Region, I just want to recognize that we're on unceded Algonquin territory. Puis, je vais aussi dire que je suis complètement bilingue. La présentation va être en anglais aujourd'hui, mais ça me fait plaisir de vous répondre dans la langue officielle de votre choix, anglais, français, et des fois je parle un peu plus de la franglais, alors j'espère que ça ne vous dérange pas trop. Merci.
So, like Taryn said, today we're proud to join you, and thank you so much for your time. It's a hot day. You could be anywhere else, but here you are, here with us. And Taryn introduced himself, so did I. So actually, we're going to skip over to the next slide, which talks about our presentation today. Taryn, if you don't mind clicking next.
Awesome. So after our introductions, we're actually going to do an icebreaker activity. I just did one in the office. It was a lot of fun. It's a little digital hangman. I hope it works out with Taryn's help. We're going to discuss the purpose of an elevator pitch together. That's the topic of the day. And of course, you can read online a lot of things. Taryn and I will just give you some of our experience. We're going to discuss some principles for the elevator pitch. And then, of course, it's not just enough to discuss the elevator pitch, but how do you use it? How does it come in handy, and where and when and how to connect? We'll open up the conversation for some questions. If you have any, you can add them in chat. En anglais ou en français, si vous voulez, ça va. And then we also have some resources and some contact information.
All right, so this is my elevator pitch. Hi, my name is Taryn Watson. I'm with Shared Services Canada, and I'm also the chair of IPAC and CR. It's kind of just had a freeze, a mental freeze for a second. So I'll begin again. Hi, my name is Taryn Watson. I work with Shared Services Canada, and I'm also involved with IPAC and CR. And it's a pleasure to meet you today. I look forward to our paths crossing again. In addition, you can find me on social media, and I'm also known as a bit of a pizza connoisseur. So if you have any questions about pizza, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thanks, Melcy.
Okay, so now I'll give you my elevator pitch. We already introduced ourselves, but what I talk about when I meet someone or when I'm thinking in my head about a new opportunity. Hi, my name is Anna, and I work in communications with the lands and mineral sector. The team prepares the content. I come in and then do design work. I have a graphic design diploma, a master's in publishing, and I'm looking for opportunities in communications.
Super. So we'll proceed to the icebreaker activity, and then we'll get into the elevator pitches just afterwards. And at the elevator, the Hangman.
You might have to exit out of the presentation into just PowerPoint mode.
Okay.
Awesome, there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna explain, since my computer won't let me share, I'll explain to Taryn and to you all our participants. So Taryn, it's very easy. Once someone adds a letter to the chat, you can remove it from the lower bar. If they get the correct letter, do you remember the statement? Okay, I'll text it to you because you're gonna be my, just a second, everyone. Okay, so once a correct letter has been guessed, you'll simply delete the square. And so if an incorrect letter is guessed, then of course you'll still remove it from the list, but then you'll also reveal bits and pieces of the Hangman. Okay, so who wants to start? Does anyone want to give us a letter?
Sorry, and so I think in chat we have A.
Oh, we have so many. Okay, so
yeah.
Clearly we want to go with
Well, and I think you just muted yourself, but I just want to say that because I'm sharing my screen, I'm unable to see the chat function fully. So if somebody can maybe just read out the letters for me, that'd be great.
I will read the letters, but I wanted to fix my echoing. Is this much better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry about that. Usually I'm a technological whiz. I did log in 10 minutes early so I can prep everything, but everyone was so punctual and everyone was so early. I didn't have time. Okay, so here we go. Now it works. Okay, so clearly A was a super big guess. So if you can remove the letter A, and we don't have any, so you have to remove that. Just show us the head. All right, so if you delete the A, perfect. Okay, but the next letter is S, and yes, we do have an S. So if you go to your clue, Taryn, I texted you the clue. And so no, so you just remove, you delete the square. You don't have to write anything.
Okay, perfect.
The letter's already hidden behind there. So you should just delete that. It'll appear behind it.
Oops.
Perfect. That's okay. So we had a T as a guess too, but if you click on it and you just press the button delete. Same for the letters. You click on the square and you just delete it.
So T is next.
All right, T is next, clearly. Okay, So we have an E as well. Can we please reveal all the E's? That's right, there it goes, just delete. Perfect, cut. Awesome. What's next? We got a T. We have an R. Please take the R. Is there any R's? Yes, there are. There we go. Awesome. What's next? So T got guessed, and there's an O. Is there any O's turn? Let's see. Awesome. B. Someone guessed a B. So can we go with the B? All right. So if anyone wants to guess, yes, be your best self. Thank you, Kara. Awesome. Good job. Sorry, I just saw that right now. That's exactly right. So be your best self. The point of this is to be genuine. You know, we're not going to teach you. There's no scientific formula here. There's nothing we can do to sell you a winning formula. But we're going to give you some tips, some of the things that I've been doing. I'm mid-career right now, let's say. I'm 33, so I was in your shoes. I remember like it was yesterday, even though it was 10, 11 years ago. But that was it. I had to practice, you know. The first couple of times I wanted to go to networking events was a little bit harder because I was shy. I'm an introvert. But networking can be done and elevator pitching can be done even if you are an introvert or an extrovert. So we're going to talk about all of that. So Taryn, you'll have to share your screen again and go back into presentation mode to the next slide.
Okay. Just give me a second.
No problem. Awesome. So if you go to, oh, okay, sure. We'll skip through. Great. So we did the icebreaker, and then Taryn's going to take over. First, we're going to talk about the purpose of an elevator pitch.
Perfect. All right, thank you. So really, when you think about an elevator pitch, you really want to think of what the key elements are. So that's what we're trying to break down here. If you think about it, usually when you ride in an elevator, there's usually about 10 floors in a government building. There might be a little bit more. Some buildings also always have a little bit less as well. But generally, elevator pitch is about a 30-second little kind of blurb about yourself. And so what's the purpose of that? So the first and foremost is to make an introduction. You want to let the other person know who you are. You also want to connect with the other person. So sharing something about yourself that's not just your title, or not just your that's not necessarily always just professional. And the last thing you want to do is leave a positive impression. So you want to be able to speak well, articulate, and make a good impression. So, you know, when you think about it and you get in the elevator, the first thing usually somebody says is hello. So there's usually some pleasantries exchanged. And, you know, in the good old days, you could kind of reach out and, you know, give your hand and shake someone's hand, and introduce yourself that way as well. And that's where, if you think about the elevator pitches that Anna and I both shared with you just a few minutes ago, we both started with, "Hi, my name is, you know, I work here, and this is what I do," kind of thing. So that tells a little bit about yourself professionally to the other person. So that's usually important because depending on who the person is, they might work in the same department as you, the same branch as you, the same sector as you, or they might work in a different government kind of department, but it'll still be good to kind of connect with you. And so it's helpful just to kind of situate, you know, one person vis-a-vis the other in terms of the organization and the type of work. you also want to connect with a person, and that's where showing a little bit of your personality, maybe you have a sense of humor, maybe you can kind of add a bit of a joke in there if you can. And so it's it can always be a challenge in that you have roughly 30 seconds, but you want to share something that helps you stand out and that will allow the other person to remember you by. So one of the things I shared was I'm a pizza connoisseur. So you know, if somebody might not remember my name, somebody might not remember where I work, but like, oh yeah, I met that guy in the elevator, and he's really into pizza. So you know, for all the young professionals out there, don't be shy. Even if you don't have, you know, something cool in terms of a hobby, you know, just think about something that you like, something that you enjoy, and something about yourself. And I can say with pride that pizza's one thing that I've been enjoying for some time now. And then lastly is that positive impression. So you don't want to over talk or overshare. You want to be, it's good to use short, clear, concise sentences. You also want to leave a little bit of space. So, you know, after each sentence, leave a little bit of a pause in case somebody wants to kind of respond or get in there. And so it's striking the right balance between sharing, but also connecting as well. So here's some details about what I was sharing. Actually, here. I generally try to kind of divide these up into kind of 3 categories: professional, personal, and personality. I know someone's going to ask, why are some of the text in, why some text in blue or why some text in black? There's actually no reason. I think originally we had them in black, and then we were thinking of making them blue, and then when we mixed them around a little bit, some were still black, some were still blue, kind of thing. So no, there's no thought behind the color coding that you see today. So coming back to the elements, again, you know, in that first sentence, both Anna and I shared, you know, where we work, what we work on, a little bit about ourselves in terms of the professional us. I also added that, and Anna and I actually both added that we both volunteer with IPAC, so that's a professional network as well. In terms of personal, neither of us really shared too many, neither of us shared any athletic achievements or other type of volunteering that we do. But Anna did mention her background in graphic design, creative design. And I think, Anna, I think if you remember correctly, I think you may have gotten an award there as well. So depending on the context, again, as Anna said before, it's not a science, it's more of an art. So, you know, sometimes you got to feel what's right to share in a certain context. And then the last kind of category is that personality. If you can crack a joke, that's even more better. That again leaves a good impression. Be confident, you know, be well-spoken. In person, you know, having good body language. So instead of having your hands in your pocket, you know, like I said, you can reach out and offer your hand, obviously pre-COVID times and once COVID's over, in terms of shaking hands, and that just kind of demonstrates good body language, and that you're reaching out to another person.
Yeah, and I want to add on that note, practicing a little bit. So there's a couple of things I want to add. In all honesty, I've met people in all walks of life. So now that I'm new in Ottawa, I feel like I have to catch up, you know, to everyone. And so if I'm on the river, my best friends describe me as a social butterfly. Being an introvert actually is an advantage of mine, because an introvert means that I can connect one-on-one, you know. Being that social butterfly, I pay a compliment and I sort of am that kind of happy-go-lucky person. And from there, I start a conversation. So whether I'm on the Ottawa River making a joke or a comment about, hey, I'm biking, you're biking, oh, your bike is so great. Or if I'm in government, like Taryn said, I do make sure to tailor. So for example, outside of government, people wouldn't know what a sector award or an ADM award is. So that's when I would tailor. I would say, to someone at, let's say I want to stay with natural resources, right? So I'm looking for opportunities within. I would make sure to say to the communications portfolio sector, hi, I'm Anna. I actually was working with you guys on the design of this and that, I'd make sure to bring it up. So in my case, I helped with the campaign. And apparently we did so well that we're not only met our goal, but we exceeded it. So I know, to me, that I have to mention to that I'm speaking their language, So practicing is also, I'll give you a personal example, something that again works in my favor. If you're really on an elevator with someone you admire? So I love Michael Jordan, and I was a huge basketball fan. So what I did in high school is I actually volunteered, because I realized that I didn't like having things in front of me. So I volunteered to learn how to score keep, because that was front row. I could see all the players, I learned the ins and outs. But when I was first year university, I needed a part-time job like so many students. And no shyness, no awkwardness. I was just, whatever, like literally, if I don't get it, I don't get it. But they had a position open to score keep. So I went up to them and I said, hey, I've been volunteering scorekeeper. I'm really good at it. And I'd love to join you. And I turned my hobby into a paid position. Same thing. I loved graphic design. I enrolled myself in school, and now I work in it. And I love volunteering. It just brings me so much joy. So whatever person you're meeting or whatever department you're in, talk to yourself in the mirror, or talk to your friend, just practice a little bit how to change it up. And you can make mistakes. Kind of like Taryn, for example, just now was like, oh, actually, I lost my train of thought in the middle. That something didn't work at this one event. That's okay. Next event, you just polish yourself and nobody will know. And I also have no shame whatsoever at work or in general to say, I'm sorry, I don't know that. I'm still learning. So for me, that works, just being honest and saying, I'm still learning this, or like, hey, let me do once over kind of thing.
Super, thanks, Anna. So we've broken down some of the underlying principles of an elevator pitch, and Anna and I are both going to speak to them. So I guess I'll begin just talking about a relationship. So whenever you're connecting with somebody, it ends up being a relationship. So it could be a friendship, it could be a collegial relationship, it could be a manager-employee relationship. And always to remember that relationships are built on trust. So how do you build trust with someone? So I wanted to ask this in terms of in the chat, how do you build trust with someone? And so the answers can vary, and everyone is different, but being genuine, and we'll get to that in a second, but being honest, being punctual, really trying to get a sense of the other person and being who you are, and being clear with each other, and that what helps the relationship grow. So I'll stop here and turn it over to Anna.
Yes, I was sharing with Taryn in preparation for this presentation. What an amazing event I attended, just like you're doing today. I also was eager to learn, driven, and I attended a presentation on positive networking. A lot of people, when they put their hand out, not during COVID, but in general, when you put your hand out, right, you're kind of putting that energy out, like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? And I learned in positive networking, if you put your hand out with this attitude of like, hey, what can I do for you? Maybe a volunteer opportunity, or maybe I can connect. Maybe I'm not the right person for your job, but maybe my friend Mike or Jessica or whoever is the right person. So you help that connection, and then they'll remember you. So positive networking is a form of sort of paying it forward.
Super. And a good way to do that is to be genuine. So when you try to be someone that you're not, people can see through you. If you start to kind of make up stuff in terms of achievements or, you know, interests. Through a couple of questions, people can really kind of figure out how much you're really interested in that, or how much you actually succeeded in that, or how much you actually have experience in that. So being genuine is really important, and that's where that kind of personality comes out. So if you have a sense of humor, and everyone has a bit of a sense of humor, but each of us could be different. Some people could be sharp, witty. Some people can just be a lot more extrovert, and some people could be just a little bit more introvert. So being who you are is really a key part, yeah, the point can't be understated enough.
So I'm a Canadian born elsewhere, which means that I bring in my own sort of personality, cultural. One thing you'll see is that I actually, when I talk, I'll actually make a movement. I'll gesticulate. So someone told me to be careful during an interview time and everything, because it's too distracting. And so I learned to monitor that. So sometimes I'll put my hands down at interview time, but this is an interview time. This is where I want to be my natural self. So that's kind of more passionate individual with a smile on my face can come out, can come across, versus Taryn, who's kind of more reserved, so that's fine. I learned that it's okay to take feedback. It's okay to also be myself, so that, because if we're all the same, what a boring world it would be, you know? So I think, to me, that's what being genuine means. I don't mean jumping. I just mean knowing exactly how to read the instance, you know? And likewise, another thing I do is mirroring. So if someone's very reserved, you know, like, again, I'll know to monitor, but if someone's super open and chatty like me, then I'll kind of unleash that kind of energy.
So two more principles that we have are approachability and adaptability. So in the spirit of time, I'll probably just speak to both of them, and then I'll pass it over to Anna. As I gave an example, you know, during non-COVID times, reach out to shake someone's hand. So, you know, that body language is important. It's important to kind of be open and positive. You know, so if you think of yourself and, you know, you have your hands in your pocket, or your arms are crossed and you're looking the other way, well, you know, that's not a good time to be making an elevator pitch with someone else. Or if the other person is looking away or has their hands in their pocket and is kind of tuned out, well, again, that's not somebody that you want to kind of make an elevator pitch to. So it's important to be open, positive, and as Anna mentioned before, really kind of offer support. And I think we Anna and I both touched on this in terms of being adaptable. Networking is for everyone. Making an elevator pitch is for everyone. And that's introverts, extroverts, and the people in between, ambiverts. Anna?
Yeah, so I moved to Ottawa from Vancouver, and I love to attend the top 100 event that they would have there every year. And the first year, I loved the fact that there were so many people, but it was completely overwhelming. And I realized that that's not a successful way for me to try to talk to everyone. So approachability to me as an introvert person means something else, means building a really strong relationship. So maybe I didn't work the room, you know, maybe I didn't exchange 70 business cards, but the people that I met, by being open and having a more one-to-one conversation, for me worked, because later in years, they were the people that when I reached out for help, because I was doing my master's and I had to have a portfolio piece. So it was a very like business intent. So I reached out to those people that I built that connection. Again, I didn't work the room, but I was approachable. They were helpful. And I let's say I only gave, compared to somebody doing 10 business cards, maybe I only did 3, but the 3 for me was what worked. And I recommend that you don't measure yourself, don't compare yourself, you know, just focus on what you want to get done, be strategic in the people that you meet, and adaptability we already touched on from my turn, but understand that what we're giving you as information right now is, again, it's not a formula. It is, we're wanting you to reflect on this, to think on it, and to find what works best for you.
Cool, thanks, Hannah. So when, where, and how should I connect with others? pretty sure those are the questions that you're asking yourselves right now. So obviously right now in this COVID period, virtual is the way to go. So just a few points just want to kind of keep in mind. And so if somebody can write this in the chat, it's my next kind of chat question. How many people are on LinkedIn? So yes or no, just let us know if you're on LinkedIn or not. So first of all, social media, it's designed for two-way exchanges. So if you're on social media and all you do is just kind of follow and, you know, just kind of watch what people do and don't actually share anything of your own, I mean, it's okay to do that. That's your prerogative. But it's actually designed for exchanging and interacting with other people. So you're missing out. Twitter is actually really big in the government of Canada. So there's a lot of public servants on Twitter. There's groups like Leaders GC. There's hashtags you can follow. I'm in the area of digital government. So the hashtag GC Digital is one where there's a lot of activity. LinkedIn by far is the best social media in a professional context. So, you know, if you're not on there already, be sure to join LinkedIn. And we actually have some info to help you on that a little bit later. And hey, if you're on LinkedIn and we're not friends, then do send me a friend request. So looking to always make more friends, especially on GC Collab. You know, I'm kind of slowing down on GC Collab, so I need some more friends on GC Collab. But all that to say, if you don't know what GC Collab is, you're also missing out. The government of Canada has its own internal social media called GC Tools. GC Connects is the main one. GCpedia, just like Wikipedia, and then GC Collab also lets you connect externally. And you know, I think the Federal Youth Network is doing a great job with its Zoom and Teams different learning sessions, and there's others that are happening across the GC by regional networks or your own departmental network, or by other kind of cross-cutting groups. So for example, recently, there's been a lot of activity in the area of Black Lives Matter and anti-racism, and there have been chats held by different groups across the GC in that space as well. So I'll turn it over to Anna for in-person.
Yes, Chantel added a comment that she uses Facebook as well for networking. And you know, I have to say that I just learned that there is a Facebook group for communications positions and for policy. So absolutely, you know, every generation has a new tool. Like now the rage is TikTok and all of that. I do find that Facebook also works for me. I know it all depends because I studied marketing, and it depends on the age and whatever trends come in and out. But what I want to say about LinkedIn is that I work in concrete examples. So how it really, really helped me was that when I was sort of looking for more information, same thing, put any kind of shyness away, because there's no room for failure. So my rate of response, I would say, has been 1 in 10. So yes, that means I did do the work to write to 10 people to only get one answer. But those people that do answer, they've been so helpful. And I'll give you a concrete example. I had done my undergrad. I worked a couple of years, and at work they had someone who had graphic design skills, but they didn't have my communication skills. And I kind of got like almost, I don't know if I could put it as envy, but I was like, oh my gosh, if I can do what I know to do and what they know to do, oh my God, I need to do that. So absolutely, yes, alumni networks, yes. And the program was quite expensive in Vancouver, you know, over $25,000. So I was like, oh, is this a good program? Like, should I embark on this? It's $25,000 student debt. And that's what I did. I reached out to multiple people, and one gentleman, always remember him, Richard Whitehead, awesome dude, responded, sat down with him. I showed him my course listing. He said, oh yeah, this is great. You know, it was what I needed to have someone just listen to me and give me some advice. And I'm very happy with my decision, because as soon as I enrolled in the program, I learned so many things. And like I said, I took those skills, applied them in my master's, took that networking value from my master's degree to become, to have a private sector and now to work in public sector. So for me, that's worked. And I have to say, I am struggling a little bit with COVID. I use LinkedIn like as a trampoline to meet people in person. So right now, yes, we can't. If you're a little bit more easygoing than me, maybe less of an introvert, or yes, you can do the same thing. Reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on Facebook, or I see now someone posted the Instagram for the Federal Youth Network. So that's a cool place, is Instagram too. In person has worked best for me. I sit down, I sort of take 10 minutes to brainstorm a few ideas. So that, because I'm always respectful of people's time, the fact that these people give you time, and I always try to pay for the coffee. I know when you're a bit younger, it's a bit hard because they're like, oh shoot, this coffee here, this coffee, this lunch there, you know. A lot of people don't even let me pay, but I always offer because I really want to say thank you to them. So in person, like I said, I prep some questions, I sit down, I'm very respectful of their time. If they want to give me more than 15, 20 minutes, awesome. But otherwise, I always come from that perspective of like, it's great that they're giving me their time, but I shouldn't, you know, be too greedy. I also, like I said, being new in Ottawa, that's what I did for myself. I thought, okay, I was a student, I had to work, I didn't have time for volunteering. Now I do have a stable job, you know, comfortable roof on top of my head, no worries. So that's how I got involved with networking. So I helped IPAC, and my work for one of their conferences did very well. So then Taryn and his team reached out, and I helped them with the annual reports. And it's such a nice way to meet people because the board of directors for IPAC is made up of people from across departments. And you never know what my next opportunity might be.
Super, thanks, Anna. So we're gonna actually take a break in terms of the presentation and go to a Q&A. So if you have any questions to ask us, please ask us in the chat function. And maybe, I know Josh messaged me saying he had a question. So Josh, maybe you can get the ball rolling on the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So a first question for you in terms of a self-deprecating sort of stance. So what's the worst experience you've had in terms of you having an elevator pitch? And maybe I'll kick things off by saying this was, as I was trying to get into government, I went to an interview, and afterwards my soon-to-be manager actually said that really what I came off as was desperate because I'd been in between contracts, had finished a term position, and had been out of work for like 5 months. So when they ask questions like, you know, where do you see yourself working, or do you like this area or this area, I was kind of just like, whoever is hiring as soon as possible. So, what's your sort of maybe worst and best experience in terms of your elevator pitch being successful or unsuccessful?
Taryn, may I start because I have the perfect answer?
No, please go ahead.
So I had worked in my undergrad. I did my undergrad English, French, and Spanish majors at the University of Winnipeg in Winnipeg. So I've actually moved around Canada a lot, which means I have to be really good at networking and sort of catching up to becoming part of communities. And so I worked in undergrad, and I knew I had experience on my resume, but I also graduated during the financial crisis, 2008, 2009 then. So it's a bit tough moving back to Vancouver, not knowing anyone. And I remember my job interview, because I was also kind of getting desperate. I'm like, oh no, I have so much education and I'm so great. Why don't people know how great I am? You know, that kind of mentality. And so I go to a job interview and they say, tell me about yourself. And I literally went on this like beautiful dithyramb of like how I don't know, how I was in choir and this and that. And I think they looked at me kind of like, what is this person doing? And that's when I realized, tell me about yourself means tell me about your professional self. And I was like, okay. So I need to really streamline my thoughts in a very correct fashion and never get fooled by that, even if you're an interview and even if it's like an icebreaker, you don't ever, you know, get tricked by the language used. And the best one is, years later, I improved. Part of my Master of Publishing at SFU, we actually were the first cohort to have an emerging leaders conference. It was amazing. I got to meet people who run Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House, like amazing people. They brought in authors and everything. And luckily for me, there was a quiet gentleman in the back. And luckily for me, and please work on being bilingual. It's so important, especially this side of the country. I speak French. So there was a gentleman who was more quiet, but I actually said hello to him. It turns out that he was from government. And he told me about this opportunity about working as a student co-op. And I was like, mind blown, absolutely. Not only did I tell him then in May that I wanted for September, but I actually had my summer placement in Toronto. And from Toronto, I used my air miles and whatever little student discounts to be on the train back. But I actually, from Toronto, came to Ottawa, chased him down. So I expressed that interest in that. What I said in May, it's now June. I really do want to follow up. I really am interested. And I think that played to my advantage. The fact that I was very communicating positively how interested I am. Then I got the co-op September to December.
Super. I'll just share a quick example. I actually once had an elevator ride with the deputy when I was working at the labor program at Employment Social Development, previously HRSDC. And, you know, I think it was the start of the day. It was actually, it's like a July day, kind of like the ones we were having, like a super hot, like humid type of day. And so I got to work and I click on the button to go upstairs, and the elevator opens up, and there's the one elevator that comes from the basement. So the deputy minister was already in the elevator, and I kind of felt shy. I was like, oh no, the deputy's in there. Like, I don't want to, like, I'll just take the next one kind of thing. But then, like, as the door opened and she looked, and like, we kind of made eye contact. So that was like, it's too late for me to like kind of hide. So I got in, and I mean, I think the deputy and I briefly crossed paths through the youth network, through Imagine. So I'm not sure if she knew my name, but I think she recognized me as like the youth network guy kind of thing. And so, we made eye contact, and I got in the elevator and I said hello, and she said hello. So we exchanged pleasantries. And so here's a good icebreaker if you're ever shy or if you're not sure what to talk about. And the weather in Canada is a best icebreaker, because everybody has an opinion about the weather. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's not hot enough. When it's too hot, it's too humid. It's raining, it's not raining, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a super hot, humid day. So I think I asked her, I forget exactly how the conversation went, but we started talking about the weather. And then I made a joke about, I'm like, well, at least, there's AC in the office, and I'm sure that helps keep absenteeism down. And literally the deputy chuckled, and here was my floor, and I made the beeline like out the elevator, like the quickest I've ever gone. And I was just so happy the deputy laughed at my joke. And maybe she thought it was a horrible joke, but she smiled. And I was like, to me, that was a win. And that was a great way to start the day. So that's probably my best elevator kind of ride experience. I just see the question from Mary in terms of my past work with the Free Agent program. So it's a good question. And obviously now is a good time. I'm not sure exactly when applications are due. Maybe somebody does, and they could share it in the chat. But when it comes to the Free Agent program, so it's been some time, so I'm not sure if it's entirely up to date. If my info is entirely up to date, because I know some things have changed and some things haven't. But there are a number of attributes that the Free Agent program is looking for, and that's also what they actually assess for. So they make this quite clear. And creativity, is something that's important. So we've actually received applications. Some are standard applications like a CV and like a letter. While others are really colorful, there's a lot of graphics, and I don't know if we've ever received a elevator pitch application, but hey, that's something that you may want to consider. But we have received some really kind of cool and outside the box type of applications. I think one that comes to mind right now is a play. So somebody made their whole application into like a play. So there was, scene one, act one kind of thing. and then there's intermission and the person changed to something else and so on. So it was actually kind of cool because it's not something that you would normally think of. Let's go back to the question. So if you are a free agent, so the good thing is with the free agent program, there's a jobs inventory. So managers and different parts of the GC are actually looking for free agents. So there's a little bit of a repository of different opportunities. So that actually helps. The other advantage of a free agent is a free agent can actually be quite selective. So because there's a number of opportunities that come in, I think from my time there, the ratio is roughly 3 to 4 opportunities per free agent. And so then thus the free agent can be selective in terms of the opportunities. So when the free agent goes out for interviews, it's often the other way around. Rather than being interviewed, the free agent is actually interviewing the manager the opportunity to see if it's a good fit for them. And so the elevator pitch can help, but it's really more important to think about the underlying principles. So that's why we kind of broke it down earlier in terms of the principles. So like, what are you trying to do with an elevator pitch, right? And that's about making an introduction, connecting with someone, and also leaving a positive impression. So those 3 objectives are still very much important, regardless if you're a free agent or not, regardless if you're a student or not, regardless if you're part of a youth network or not. Those three things will guide you regardless of where you work in terms of your professional interactions.
I actually want to answer a question as well. It says, Chantal wrote, how do you manage to keep those links? I mean, I don't have enough time to network, LOL. And absolutely, you know, like I said, as a student, you have so much financial pressure. I was working 2 jobs and doing my nannying on the weekend, doing my tutoring because I needed the money, because I needed the food, and I needed to be healthy for school, to be successful and all of that. Nobody is saying make your life harder. Set up a goal. So just what I actually, while I was listening to Taryn, I pulled out what works for me. That's another thing I learned from one of these amazing conversations. Everyone has an agenda and writes things down that they want to do. But one of the things I learned was to break it down. For example, I start off with a clean sheet, right? So this is the month. And then I break it down and it ends up looking like this, 1,000 things. Now I happen to be a graphic designer, so of course it's colorful and happy. It doesn't have to be as colorful. But an example is, you know, if you're like, oh shoot, I have 1,000 things to do, you know, don't just put clean the house. Break it down into clean my bedroom, clean my washroom, clean my this, clean my that, and then tick yourself, give yourself that pat on the back. Same thing for tasks professional, you know. I knew that I'm in Ottawa. I knew that I want to work and volunteer, but I said I commit over 2019 to graphic design and public speaking. So I only did what I could, which was 1 conference. That's all I could do. I met amazing people, but I didn't overwork myself. Because another thing that tends to happen, and this is very, very important, I cannot stress this enough. Another thing that tends to happen is you write to someone and maybe they do respond, but then you don't respond to them and they're like, I'm giving you my time and you won't respond. Or on the contrary, you meet with them, but then you get busy in something. I cannot stress how important it is to say thank you to the people that you met with. In fact, I learned in a presentation that even if it's 2020 and everything's digital, and again, Instagram, TikTok, all of that, a handwritten thank you note apparently still goes a long way. So I've gotten the habit of putting in my backpack, or if I'm traveling or volunteering, I put a couple of blank thank you cards because I don't know what's going to happen. And so that way I know that if I've had a meeting or if I'm doing something, I'll always have a spare thank you card. It takes 30 seconds to write. It doesn't matter if your handwriting is flowery like mine or simple, techie. It doesn't matter. Just a quick thank you note is so important. And so to answer your question, Chantal, that's what I do. I break out my tasks. I give myself pats on the back, and I'm wise with my time.
Super. Thanks, Anna. There's a question on, you know, what's the hardest thing for young professionals? when they enter government. So I think that will vary from person to person, but the response I would say is being engaged. So when you're a young professional, your first thing trying to figure out is actually get your foot through the door. So yes, you can get a job, but it might be a casual, it might be a student, it might be a co-op, and it's not secure. So people are actually trying to get that security. And so one thing which I haven't said so far is, you know, when you try to connect virtually with someone, so I did say be clear, be concise, and that's really important because you don't want to send someone, you know, a really long email, because it's a lot to read. So the simpler and the more concise you can be is actually quite helpful. But and as this kind of goes also to Josh's kind of experience, just be clear. So if you say, hey, you know, I'm a student and I'm looking for a bridging opportunity, that one sentence is huge because it actually puts into context what the purpose of this email is. And I find that you know, when I was younger, sometimes I would forget, or I would overthink it and I'd be shy, like, you know, is it okay for me to say this? Is it too direct? Is it what? But with time, I've learned that, you know, being clear and concise is actually really helpful because it saves time and it actually really, you know, provides clarity in terms of the interaction with the individual. So that's what I would suggest. You know, that job security is usually the first challenge for young professionals. And if you are, you know, trying to connect with people virtually, you know, be clear and concise. That's the best advice I would have. And so while we're waiting for another question, I just want to share that I'm not sure if Julie's online today, the Youth Network official from Montreal. But at the beginning of the pandemic, Julie had reached out to me in terms of, hey, Julie, salut, Julie. Julie had reached out to me on the career bootcamp and some questions and so on a kiosk for IPAC. And before I forget, IPAC stands for the Institute of Public Administration in Canada, founded in 1947, 19 chapters across the country, www.ipac.ca. But Julie had reached out to me on IPAC and the Federal Youth Network and Career Bootcamp. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, who's this Julie person? I don't know Julie. And especially in those early days of the pandemic, I had a little bit more time because our priorities shifted at work and our day-to-day had changed. So I reached out to Julie, saying, hey, Julie, you know, do you want to have just a quick like telephone chat or a Zoom chat or something just to kind of connect? And we did. So don't be shy. You know, as it's as simple as saying, you know, hey, would you like to chat a little bit more? And so it was a little bit easier in this case because Julie had already reached out to me. So, and Julie also kind of shared a little bit about her in the email, but we still didn't know enough about one another. So I asked if she wanted to connect virtually, just for a quick chat, and we did, and it was great because we were able to actually get a better sense from each other, also leave a good impression, and connect on social media as well. I think we're friends now on LinkedIn and GC Club, if I remember correctly. So thanks, Julie. Merci, Julie.
And Terem, we have a question in the Q&A. So from Genevieve, who asks that she's a new employee in government without much experience and in a pandemic situation. So what would you suggest to try to connect and try to connect in that type of situation? And not having had much contact in government, she finds it hard to keep up contact, even if she doesn't have sort of as much in the way of connections. Maybe I'll just chime in quickly and say that you know, one way to sort of start is, I guess, depending on what platforms you're using, but certainly LinkedIn is a very intuitive platform. So if you're starting with a particular department, that's a good place to sort of start and build your connections with the people in that department, because it'll very easily show you who works for the organization that you work for. And it can break down by region and stuff as well. So if you're in Montreal, you can see, you know, who works for that department in Montreal. Add those connections, just say, hey, you know, I noticed we're at the same place, not in the same business line, but just reaching out for that purpose. Alors, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'opportunités de comme créer ces connexions, utilisant peut-être LinkedIn, peut-être Twitter, peut-être les autres plateformes de médias sociaux, mais certainement, je pense que pour moi, le meilleure plateforme, c'est LinkedIn, et le plus mauvais, c'est probablement les courriels. So for me, I think email is kind of the worst way to have that introduction, because I think in this time, lots of us are just overwhelmed with the amount and volume of email requests that we're getting. But Anna, what are your thoughts around sort of starting to form those connections as a new public servant?
Yeah, so this is my first year, and I definitely have to say that you can still hear me fine. I have to check once in a while. Yeah, all good?
Yeah,
awesome. Because I'm worried about the echoing. I am, like I mentioned, right, I hustled for that student co-op, and then here I am, first year of government. This is what I've done for myself. I've committed to the work that I have during the office, but I also know that I'm not a permanent, so I have to be more competitive. I have to meet more people. So what I did was I got involved with extracurricular stuff. So GCWCC, that meant I had my work with my team manager and my director, but GCWCC was an outlet to trips about the department, meet other people, and collect more projects, right? So I can build my portfolio. And getting involved with IPAC, like I said, for me was very, very helpful. I really enjoyed the conference. So this year it got postponed, but if you go look up IPAC, you'll see that I think it's being postponed to next year, but there's a young professionals conference. It happens in May, and they had amazing speakers, and same thing, I got to meet peers like me, but that's what's worked for me. Yes, committing to my work, but also, again, not 1,000 things. I'm only one person. I can only do so much. And then doing 1 or 2 things. And the way I've done it per quarter or per like half a year. Okay, in the next 4 months, I have this one goal. I want to get some volunteering in public speaking. So I got involved with the Young Professionals Network. I was the MC for an event. It was awesome, but that's as much as I could go. And I just didn't set up myself for failure. So that's what's worked for me. And of course, working hard and doing well, because I'm not going to lie, because I did work so hard. Like I stayed an hour later after work for the campaign. Like I said, I received in my first year in government 2 awards, a sector level and an ADM level, which I know that's bonus things for me to take into my next opportunities.
And just to maybe just build off of that, and I know we're almost out of time, so Geneviève, si tu veux, on peut jaser après aussi. But my basic response would be to start to begin building your network. And so I think we've offered some good advice today. I think Josh is definitely right on in terms of LinkedIn. GC Collab is another medium. I would suggest those 2 mediums, because both of those mediums will let you build your network. So if you connect with somebody on either, you'll still keep that connection, because GC Collab is external facing. So even if you're no longer an employee of the government of Canada, maybe you're still a student peut-être, alors même après la rentrée, tu peux toujours connecter avec des gens, tu peux toujours jaser avec des gens sur LinkedIn ou même GC Collab. So that would be my advice, and I'll stop there because I know Josh is probably keeping an eye on time.
I think we have 1 last minute left. Do we have time to show them the learning and networking resources? I think we send out the presentation? Anyway, I wanted to mention.
Actually, yeah, we'll post the presentation. So maybe that's the best way for people, and then they'll be able to access the links that way.
So my final point is, you'll see that we've posted some learning and networking resources, but like I stressed, a thank you. At a session like this, I learned about a book called Guerrilla Marketing 3.0, and holy heck, that book is insane. It is so useful. And then Tuesdays with Maury has nothing to do with networking, has nothing to do with elevator pitching. However, it was a book that helped me kind of learn about who I am more. It's this gentleman who graduates but gets back in touch with a university professor. So they have these 11 Tuesday conversations about all kinds of things in life. I read it when I was in my early 20s. I just read it again 10 years later, and I realized, wow, this helped me understand and helped me sort of envision my next decade, my next 2 decades so much better. So that's why I put Tuesdays with Maury. That's just optional, but I feel like once you read it, you feel the same as me. And anyway, you'll get the presentation. Thank you so much, everybody. I think this is our final minute, so I want to say thank you for your time once more. I already have a couple of LinkedIn invitations. That's so lovely of you guys to be so proactive. I really appreciate it. You guys and gals. Vous, tous vous, les filles et les garçons. Merci beaucoup.
Awesome.
Okay,
thanks very much, Taryn and Anna, for your presentation and sharing your thoughts today. Alors, merci à Taryn et à Anna, et puis à tous nos participants de partout au Canada. So thank you to our participants across Canada as well for joining us today for this return to the use of Zoom. As mentioned, the presentation will be online on our GC Wiki page shortly, which the link has been posted there in the chat. So have a great day, everyone, and thanks very much for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, Ian. Bye.
We running up, God lost my soul.